Hi, and welcome to TXDZNY. On today's show, I'm going to be talking about Disney's value resorts. So I have done a video ranking my top deluxe resorts, and I have done another video where I've ranked my favorite moderate resorts. I'm not going to be ranking these value resorts because there's not very many of them. So I'm just going to kind of give a rundown of each one of them. Um, there really is only three pretty much hotels at this value level. And if anyone watched my moderate resort list, I moved Art of Animation, which Disney lists as a value resort, into the moderate category because its pricing is often more into the moderate area than it is the value area. I think Disney's only keeping it in that value resort area because it doesn't have any table service dining, and that's something that you have with all these value resorts is only quick service dining. So this list is only going to be talking about the All-Star Resorts and Pop Century. I do also want to be clear that I'm not the biggest value resort fan. I get that everybody's going to Walt Disney World on a different budget, and I'd much rather see a person or a family go to Walt Disney World and stay at a value resort than not go to Walt Disney World at all. So there's I think definitely a place for these resorts. I do, however, think that if it is possible where you're not tied to go for a certain time frame, that you will benefit by maybe delaying your trip a little bit and saving a little extra money and at least staying at a moderate resort. I think you will be able to tell that few $100 difference in your hotel stay by bumping it up to moderate. But we are going to just be talking about the value resorts on this video, and I'll be sticking to that. So I'll start by talking about some of the positives of staying at a value resort. The biggest and main reason is price. You're going to be finding these value resorts generally in the low 100s. You can book them as cheap as during like off-season times, and you'll rarely see them get more than like the mid 200s, and maybe if it's really crowded, upper 200s. So you're going to be finding it pretty much in that $100 to $300 range, which is going to be the cheapest you're going to be able to really find these resorts at Walt Disney World. Some of them moderate resorts will dip down into the low 200s and stuff at times, so that's worth monitoring. But that's why I also do, like as I said, I don't have Art of Animation on this list because Art of Animation normally is upwards of 250 going into the 300s. So it's quite a bit of a difference. It could be double the price of these value resorts. But the pricing is what is the main draw, obviously, to here. A big thing that people will value in saying that they don't want to stay at a moderate or deluxe resort is that they'd rather be spending money elsewhere. Maybe they want to for sure get Genie Plus and buy lightning lanes and stuff like that. They'd rather be spend there, get souvenirs, maybe have some nice table service dining options. So everyone, it makes sense for everyone in different ways. It also is these value resorts are great for people who aren't really going to be staying at their hotel that often, that are maybe going to be the people that are going to be rope dropping every single morning and are staying until the fireworks are done at night every single night. Well, you're not going to be utilizing the pool. You're not going to be eating too much there. You're pretty much just using it as a place to sleep at night. Value resorts also have some good theming for little kids. Some of the moderate and deluxe resorts, some of the themings kind of more leaning towards an adult genre, if you want to call it that, where these value resorts are going to kind of be very kid based. So your kids are going to like these resorts more so than they might like some of the more expensive resorts. And lastly, one of the main pros to staying at a value resort is, as I said, they don't have table service dining options, but they do have some of the best quick service because they don't have any table service. It seems that their quick services are quite a bit better than some of the other resorts that might maybe even a moderate price range and stuff like that. So keep that in mind that your quick services there are going to be pretty good. Now to some of the negatives to staying at the value resorts. First off, is that it's going to have some of the smallest rooms on Disney property. That's a Disney resort. Some are significantly smaller and some aren't that much smaller, but you're going to notice that it's going to be a tighter squeeze for a family if you're trying to get just a room that could sleep 4 or 5 in these value resorts. You're also going to find with these resorts that it's going to be a little bit larger. So, and since it's not as many places to dine and things like that, your common areas are going to be a lot more crowded than some of the other resorts. So it's going to just feel like it's going to be way more crowded than it probably actually is. It's just that everyone's kind of going to the same areas when you're at the resort. And as I touched on, these while the quick services are good, you aren't going to have any table service restaurant dining options here. So that's going to be a drawback to it, is that you're only going to have quick service options when at these value resorts. Another thing is going to be that there's no slides at the pools at any of these value resorts. They have pools, all of them, but they're not going to have any slides, which is kind of odd considering that it does have so many kids going to these resorts, but you won't see any slides here. It will have splash pads and things like that and still have a pool, so it's enough to cool you off on some hot days, but you're not going to have any of those really fun slides like the pirate slide at the Yacht and Beach Club, or the volcano at the Polynesian and such like that. And for me, one of the biggest drawbacks of these resorts are the buses, mainly at the all-star resorts. You'll find that these, since they're so crowded and with so many families, that you often won't get on the first bus that's coming, especially coming home from parks, and if you're going during crowded times. These buses are also some of the furthest away from the Disney park, so you have to allow that extra time in the mornings, and remember when you're going home in the evenings that you might not be getting the first bus that's coming, maybe not even the second one, all depends on time of the year and stuff like that, and know that it's going to maybe take you that extra 10-15 minutes than it does for a lot of the resorts on Disney's property at a moderate or deluxe level. Another thing that's quite a bit different with some of these is that the hallways are kind of like set up like a Motel 6 kind of area. So people are going to be walking right by your doors and stuff a lot more frequently than they do at some of the other resorts. So it can make some of the hallways loud, even though it's outside, so it's not going to echo and stuff, but you will hear a lot more noise at these resorts than you do at some of the others. So now to dive into each one of these resorts and just kind of touch on it just in a little bit. So I'll start out by talking about the All-Star Movie Resort. Now, what I will say about this resort, it's going to be the most appealing probably to a lot of your kids. It's very Disney themed. It's going to have the core of like 101 Dalmatians, Toy Story, Jungle Book, and things like that. So your kids might like some of the decor and everything around the resort, which is a pro to it. One of the biggest drawbacks to this resort, though, is that, like I said, with the bus systems here, the All-Star resorts group their buses together a lot of the time. So All-Star Movies is always the last one to be picked up and always the last one to be dropped off. So you're going to have to wait that when it's drop off, you're going to have to wait that extra time that when it's taking the people to the other resorts. And then as well as if you're trying to get a bus in the morning or even home, it's going to stop off at the other resorts first. So getting on the bus while you're waiting for it sometimes can be an issue because it might already be crowded. You might have to stand. More times than not, you're going to have to stand. All depends on your time of the year. You might have to wait for a couple buses to keep coming until you can fit on one, especially if you're traveling with like a stroller and a larger party. So you do have to factor that in when you're staying at this resort. Next, I'll talk about the All-Star Music Resort. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. I think out of the All-Star resorts, this one is I don't think looks as nice as the other two. That's probably just personal preference. But these rooms here, they do offer family suites here, which none of the other All-Star resorts or Pop Century offer. Art of Animation does as well. But at All-Star Music, they do have family suites. They do have regular rooms as well. But this is where you, if you're wanting to book a larger room with more space, this is where you're going to have to book, is at All-Star Music. And then to play off the bus system, this is going to be your second stop. So it's going to be middle of the pack. It's going to be better than your odds of getting on the buses and it being smoother for you. You're going to be a little bit better than staying at the All-Star Movies, but not as good if you're staying at All-Star Sports. I feel like this would be a good time in the video to maybe touch on what I have noticed I have done, and it just makes it a little bit easier to do, is since you're saving so much money at these value resorts compared to some of the other hotels that you could book at Disney that could be upwards of $400 or $500 and stuff like that, um, is that the bus system at these all-star resorts can really frustrate you at times if you go in during a crowded time. Where since let's say I booked my room for $175 for the night, um, I might be a lot more inclined to maybe take an Uber or Lyft to and from the parks for maybe just $20 each way. So let's just even say $50 round trip. So it still makes it where if I paid $175 for my night, am still doing each day for let's say $50 more, so $225, which would still be cheaper than staying at a moderate and having to wait on the buses where you just order your Uber, they'll pick you up right at your room, and they'll drop you right off at the end of the night as well. And so that's something to always think about when you're staying at these value resorts, that you are booking it cheaper. So maybe think about using Uber or Lyft while you're staying at these resorts, and you're saving some money. And then last of the all-star resorts is going to be all-star sports. I have a son who absolutely loves sports. My daughter even likes sports, but my son is like obsessed with it. So the theming here is great for kids who love sports. So your kids are gonna like it a lot, like a lot of the kids will like all-star movies. The pro to this one is that it's normally the first pickup and the first drop off when you're staying at the all-star resorts. So you're gonna have a lot better odds of getting on that bus in the mornings, and when it's drop off, you will be the first drop off most of the time. So that's a pro to this one. So I mean, if I had to rank these all-star resorts, I'd put all-star sports at 1, all-star movies at 2, and then all-star music at 3. Another negative that happens with some of these resorts, and why they're so crowded, is it seems that when there's a lot of sporting events and large groups going to Disney World, they tend to go to these all-star resorts. So you're gonna get, when there's cheerleading competitions, different sporting events at the ESPN Wide World of Sports. A lot of these things, these teams and everything are going to be put in these resorts. So you're going to get that crowd there and a lot more kids. So if that's something you're trying to avoid, I don't know if the all-star resorts are the best choice for you. Okay, now to my favorite of the value resorts, and that's going to be Pop Century. Pop Century is themed a bit different than the all-star resorts. It's gonna, its buildings are going to be separated by decades, spanning anywhere from the 50s to the 90s. So it's going to have a little bit different theming than your all-star resorts are going to have. And the biggest pro to Pop Century is that it does connect to the Skyliner. So you're going to have that additional way to get to Hollywood Studios and Epcot, to just walk over to the Skyliner. That also gives you different ways to possibly go eat at some of the other resorts like Riviera, and get to the boardwalk and things like that, Swan and Dolphin, some of these other places where even if you don't want to go into the park, you can take the Skyliner there to have some of those nice table service dining options, since you're staying at a value and there are no table services there. It also is right next to the Art of Animation, which is very Disney themed, and as I said in my moderate video, it's probably the most Disney hotel on Walt Disney World property. So you could just walk over and see the Disney theming of the different buildings and pool and stuff like that when you're staying at the Pop Century, if you do want to get some more of that Disney theming, just to go and see for some sightseeing. Now, obviously, you'd still have to take the bus to some other places, and the bus system at Pop Century is a lot better than the all-star resorts as well, because they're not sharing it. Pop Century is going to have its own bus, so you're not going to have those issues as much with the buses being too full and additional drop-offs and stuff like that. Your odds of getting on the bus are going to be quite a bit better staying at Pop Century than it is at the all-star resorts. So when all things are taken into consideration, I think for sure Pop Century is the best bang for your buck for these value resorts, which you're still getting to use the Skyliner, and still getting some of the perks of the resort not being as expensive as moderates and deluxes. So to close this out, I'll just touch again on that. Like I said, I'm not the biggest value resort fan, but like I said, there's I totally get that there's different budgets for people on these trips. Just don't kind of set your expectations too high when staying at the value resorts. Don't go looking and seeing how nice the Polynesian and some of these deluxe resorts are and thinking you're getting something like that. If you're paying for the value, you're going to be getting the value level. And don't I think that's what some people get sour about with some of these when they say their Disney trip maybe wasn't as great as what they thought. Is that they thought they were getting this really nice vacation, but they paid for the cheapest room. So set your expectations where if you're going to be staying at a value, to know that your resort isn't going to be as nice as most of the resorts on Disney property. So just be a little bit more realistic about it. I do want to do a video coming up here soon, where, well, like I said, these value resorts are anywhere between the low 100s to the mid 200s, maybe sometimes creeping up towards 300. Where there's so many resorts staying off Disney property, whether it be like timeshares that you can still just book and stuff like that, that you can stay in that price range and have, a 3 bedroom, 2 bedroom suite with lots of pools, lots of dining options. So I will do a video touching on them. Yes, you'll lose some of the perks of staying at Disney, like your early park entry and getting to do the lightning lanes and stuff like that earlier than non-hotel guests. So you will lose that. So I'll try to do a quick video here soon touching on some of those non-Disney hotels. And once again, like I said, I'd like to see people go and stay at a value resort if that's within their budget, then not go to Disney World at all. So while I'm not the biggest fan of value resorts, I do totally welcome people wanting to stay at them and making the best of their trip in maybe other ways than just their resort. So that's going to do it all for this video. Thank you guys and girls for watching. Please subscribe and like, and thank you.